All right, let's get right into it because we've all been there, right? You start a new habit, you're full of motivation, and then a few weeks later, you fall off the wagon. But what if the reason you fail has nothing to do with willpower and everything to do with just not knowing how your brain actually works? Today, we're going to uncover the real science behind making habits stick for good. You've heard this a million times 21 days. It's a magic number for building a new habit. Self help gurus, productivity coaches, everyone repeats it. The promise is just so appealing. Just grind for 3 weeks and boom, you're set for life. But what if that's been a complete myth this whole time? Well, the actual science tells a very different story. A huge study on habit formation found this massive range. On the super quick end, sure, 18 days. But for some people, it took up to 254 days. That's more than 8 months. This one fact just shatters that whole one-size-fits-all idea. And it's probably why so many of us have felt like failures in the past. It wasn't you, it was the timeline. So, if 21 days is a myth, what's a more realistic number? Well, that same study found the average, the median, was 66 days. Just let that sink in for a second. The big takeaway here isn't just a new number, it's about a whole new time frame. We need to be thinking in months, not weeks. And that mental shift, it changes absolutely everything about how we should approach a new habit. But why does it take so long? And why is the range so gigantic? The answer isn't in some motivational quote. The answer lies in the incredible physical changes that are happening inside your brain. This isn't just about your mindset, it's about biology. The hero of our story is this amazing concept called neuroplasticity. And all it really means is that your brain isn't set in stone. It's more like clay, constantly being reshaped by your thoughts and actions. Every single time you repeat a behavior, you're not just going through the motions. You are physically, literally carving new pathways in your brain. The best way to picture this is to imagine you're trying to forge a path through a really dense forest. The first time you do it, it's a struggle, right? You're pushing through branches, tripping over roots. But if you walk that exact same path every single day, you start to wear it down. The ground gets clearer. Eventually, it becomes this easy, automatic trail you can walk without even thinking. That is exactly what's happening in your brain. And this is not just a cool metaphor. We can actually see it. A fascinating study on long-term meditators found real, physical differences in their brains. We're talking more gray matter, thicker cortical tissue. But the most stunning finding? Get this. The average brain of a 50-year-old meditator looked like the brain of a 25-year-old. That's powerful proof that consistent mental practice physically rebuilds and preserves the brain. So if our brain is always changing, how do we get it to change in the way we want it to? Well, it turns out neuroplasticity isn't random. It follows a set of predictable rules. And once you know the rules, you can use them to your advantage. Let's check out the most important ones for building habits. Okay, the first rule is super simple. Use it or lose it. Any neural pathway you stop using will get weaker over time. It's just like a muscle you stop working out. Your brain is efficient. It's not going to waste energy on connections you're not using. This is actually great news because it's why old bad habits can eventually fade away when you stop doing them. Now, this one is the absolute foundation of it all. Repetition matters. Doing something once won't carve that new path in the forest. Your brain needs to see the same neurons firing over and over and over again to say, okay, this is important. Let's make this connection stronger and more efficient. This is the practice in practice makes perfect. This rule is a game changer. Salience matters. Basically, that just means your brain changes more easily when the experience is important or meaningful to you. If a new habit feels like a pointless chore, your brain's just not going to prioritize it. But if you connect that habit to a powerful goal, a deep value, or even a small reward, you're sending a direct signal to your brain that says, hey, pay attention, this path is important. Okay, so we know we need to repeat an action and make it meaningful. We've got that. But there is a crucial, and honestly, an almost totally ignored part of this whole process. It's the part that happens when you're not even conscious. Think about it. All day long, your brain is working hard, it's strengthening connections, taking in information, building those new pathways, but this process is messy. It's also really expensive in terms of energy. So, what happens when you finally turn out the lights and go to sleep? This leads us to a really cool theory called the synaptic homeostasis hypothesis. I know, it sounds complicated, but the core idea is pretty simple. During the day, as we learn and live, our brain connections get stronger. It's like turning the volume up on everything. But then, when we sleep, the opposite happens. The brain intelligently turns the volume back down, scaling back all those connections. This is the big reset. A great way to think about this is to see your brain as an overgrown garden after a long day. Sleep is the master gardener that comes in at night, and it doesn't just trim everything randomly. It carefully prunes the weaker, less important connections, all the noise and clutter from the day. And why does it do that? To make sure the stronger, more important connections, the signal from your new habit, get all the resources they need to grow and thrive.
So, why is this nightly pruning so vital? Well, being awake is just plain exhausting for your brain. Our connections get saturated with information. Sleep is what restores our mental efficiency. It saves a ton of energy, it clears out all the junk, and most importantly, it dramatically improves our signal to noise ratio. It makes the habit you're trying to build stand out bright and clear from everything else.
So let's bring this all home. Let's put everything we've learned together into a practical framework. Now that we understand the science of neuroplasticity and the absolutely critical role of sleep, we can create a simple, brain-friendly guide to finally building habits that stick. So here it is, your brain's user manual. Number 1, choose a very specific action. That's how you start to use a new pathway. 2, repeat it with intensity over and over again to make that pathway stronger. 3, make it meaningful. Find your why to tell your brain this pathway is a top priority. And 4, the missing piece for so many of us, prioritize sleep. You have to let your brain do its job as the gardener to prune the noise and solidify that powerful new pathway. So the biggest thing to take away from all of this is forget about 21 days. Honestly, forget about 66 days too. Building a habit isn't a race to some magic number on a calendar. It is a biological process. And it's a process that you can actually understand, that you can guide, and that you can direct. You are the architect of your own mind. And that leaves us with one final thought. You now have the user manual. You know the rules of rewiring. The power to change isn't just a motivational slogan, it's a neurological reality. So the only real question left is, what are you going to teach your brain to do next?